This happened just a few months ago. I was 35, a former journalist who had traded in my career for the quiet hum of a late-night radio show. I liked the solitude, just me and the dimly lit studio filled with old microphones. Outside, the streets were still under the light of flickering streetlights. I thought little of the creepy forest nearby until that night. I've never stopped thinking about it. I began my show at midnight as usual. It felt peaceful at first, my voice filling the void. The studio lights were soft. Then, around 3 a.m., the phone rang. I thought it might be another tipsy caller. I picked up the receiver. "Hey, Mark," the voice slurred. "Do you remember what happened to the old Miller house?" A chill ran down my spine. I asked what he meant, and the stories poured out. He spoke about the fire, about a family that had died. Each detail felt hauntingly familiar, and my heart raced as I realized I knew those names. Weeks passed, and more calls came in. Each one revealed more eerie stories connected to our town's tragedies. I tried to dismiss the dread rising inside me. I shouldn't have dug deeper. I found a thread connecting me to those stories. I felt trapped, as if someone was pulling my strings. The final call of the night had a voice I recognized. "Mark," he said ominously, "you shouldn't have looked into it." My hands shook as I asked, "Who are you?" His calm voice sent chills through me. "You know me. You just don't remember." "Do you ever think about what you've left behind?" he asked. I felt an icy grip on my heart. I glanced at the locked studio door, wondering if I heard a whisper. "Help me," it seemed to say. Suddenly the line went dead. Silence pressed against my ears. I sat there, breathless. I looked outside into the darkness, feeling watched. Just hours later, another call came. This time the feeling was different. I picked up the phone, and a familiar voice said, "Mark." My heart sank. "Yes?" I answered, barely above a whisper. "I didn't tell you everything," he said. "You need to know that some stories are better left alone. You don't want anyone digging into your past, do you?" "What do you mean?" I asked, feeling weak. My heart thundered in my chest. "I know about Mia," he said. "You thought it was buried, but people talk. They remember. You left her behind for a reason." That name struck me like a punch. Mia. I had tried to forget her. She had been a friend who disappeared years ago. Guilt washed over me, and I felt my breath quicken. "I could expose you, Mark." "Maybe it's time for the truth," he continued, his voice calm and cold. "You really don't want that." I dropped the receiver. It clattered against my desk. I sat in the dim light, feeling the weight of the world pressing down on me. The walls felt closer, closing in, just like my past. Gripped by fear, I looked out the window again. What if he was right? What if they knew everything? The silence of the night felt heavier, more threatening than ever. I couldn't shake the dread clinging to me long after the final call ended. I needed clarity but felt deepening shadows around me. The past kept pulling at my thoughts, whispering truths I'd wished forgotten. I looked down at the receiver, still warm from my frantic grip. I took a breath and decided I needed a break from the studio. The mountains of unanswered questions pressed heavier than before. Stepping outside, the chill hit me hard. The air felt electric, charging each step I took toward the nearby forest. Regret gnawed at me. Why had I let those calls spiral? I wanted to forget Mia, but it seemed the more I tried, the more I felt her presence urging me onward. The lights from my studio faded behind me as I ventured deeper into the looming trees. It felt like the past itself was watching. I wandered along a narrow path, the underbrush crackling underfoot. Then, against my better judgment, I pulled out my phone. Even with the dim light, it felt like a lifeline. I could hear the wind rustle the leaves, almost as if they whispered my name. Suddenly, a noise turned my heart into lead. I turned, squinting into the dimness. Someone was there, I could feel it. I whispered, "Hello?" My voice echoed back, swallowed by the forest. No answer, just silence, green and thick. Then I heard it, a faint rustle, just off to my right. Panic gripped me. I strained to see anything, but only shadows revealed themselves. "This is insane," I muttered to myself, but I couldn't shake the feeling I wasn't alone. I decided to turn back, each step heavier than the last. That's when I noticed a flash of white, barely visible in the dark. I froze. It was something among the trees. I squinted and stepped closer. It was a splintered piece of wood sticking out of the ground. I dropped to my knees, brushing aside leaves and dirt. That's when I saw it, a small plaque embedded in the soil. Overgrown but legible, it read, "In memory of the Miller family." Every nerve went on high alert as memories surged forward. The tragic fire, the missing children, and the frantic whispers that had accompanied the old tales. Thoughts of my callers flooded back, the way they had drawn me into the stories. I suddenly felt ensnared. Was this why the calls had come? Had someone known I would uncover this? I pulled out my phone again. I needed to record this moment, to document what I had found. As I hit the record button, the hairs on the back of my neck stood on end. I felt a cold breath at my ear. "You shouldn't have come here, Mark," echoed the chilling voice. I jerked back, heart racing. But when I turned, no one was there. The forest, once quiet, now felt alive with unseen eyes. I could feel them, watching, waiting. I scrambled to my feet, backing away. And then, before I could make my escape, I noticed something in the underbrush, a faded, torn photograph peeking out from the dirt. My hands shook as I picked it up. The thick silence loomed heavier as I realized it was a picture of Mia, smiling innocently. I felt something snap inside me, twisting my gut. I had come here for answers, but what I found only raised the stakes. Someone was still watching, and I had no way of knowing what they wanted next. I stumbled back, feeling unsteady. The photograph slipped from my fingers and landed face up on the ground. Mia's smile, the last vestige of innocence, seemed to mock me. I couldn't let it overtake me. I had to move. The voice still echoed in my mind. "You shouldn't have come here." Who was watching? I felt adrenaline surge through me as I glanced around, convinced that shadows were shifting, waiting for the right moment to strike. Every instinct told me to run, but curiosity clawed at my gut. What did I just uncover? I crouched to pick up the photograph, sliding it into my pocket. I needed to get home, to figure out what to do next. My phone buzzed in my hand, sending a fresh jolt of fear through me. I glanced at the screen, but it was just a notification from my radio show's app. I wanted to ignore it, but something in me pushed to check. I opened it up, scrolling through recent messages. My heart dropped when I saw several requests for callbacks. Most were from listeners sharing their stories about the Millers. The last one caught my eye. Something about a tied past and seeking the truth. Was this a coincidence? Just last week I'd talked about the fire on air, but I hadn't expected the audience to feel so invested. It made my skin crawl. I read the message again, then quickly typed a reply, asking the caller to elaborate. A knot twisted in my stomach as I waited for a response. Then I felt it again, that feeling, as if someone were right behind me. I whipped around, scanning the trees, my heart hammering wildly. Nothing but darkness stood still. The wind picked up, rustling branches, and just like that, I turned on my heel, ready to get out of the woods. I hurried down the narrow path, my feet pounding against the earth. But with every step, the darkness seemed to thicken, closing in on me. I took a deep breath, trying to keep panic at bay. As I reached the edge of the forest, the familiar outline of my studio came into view, the lights now burning brightly against the black canvas of night. But before I could step inside, my phone buzzed again. A new message. I paused, breath hitching as I opened it. The reply was from the listener. I know what happened to the Millers. It's worse than you think. Come find me. A chill crept through me. Who was this person? Why did they know? I glanced back at the looming trees, twisting shadows dancing in the periphery. The unease took hold of me as I realized that simply stepping back into my studio wouldn't protect me. I needed answers. Yet deep down, I sensed I was being led into something I couldn't possibly understand. Whatever it was waiting for me, and I had no choice but to meet it head on. I took one last look at the forest before I stepped back into the light of the studio. The air felt heavy with unsaid words, and I knew this was far from over. I barely slept that night. Every creak and groan of my studio felt amplified, echoing my thoughts back at me. I replayed the caller's message in my head over and over. It's worse than you think. But why did they want me to find them? What was their connection to the Millers? When morning finally came, I needed to shake off the dread. I brewed a pot of coffee and settled on the couch, scrolling through news articles about the Millers' fire. The more I read, the further I sank into a pit of confusion. There were so many discrepancies, witnesses stating different timelines and conflicting accounts of who was seen at the house that night. It didn't sit right. Just as I began to formulate questions for my next show, my phone chimed again. It was a notification from the radio show app. I hesitated before opening it. This time, it wasn't just messages from listeners. There was a notification about a voicemail left during the show. I clicked to listen. The distorted voice sent chills down my spine. The past is buried, but it's clawing its way back. If you dig, you'll be marked. That last word resonated with a finality that made my pulse race. I couldn't ignore it anymore. Suddenly, my phone buzzed with another message. It was from the same listener who had reached out to me the day before. Meet me at the old Miller house tonight at 10. I'll tell you everything. A mix of fear and determination washed over me. The old Miller house had become an overgrown shell of its former self after the fire, a place few dared to venture. I knew I shouldn't go, but something compelled me to follow the trail. I had to know what they were hiding. As the sun dipped below the horizon, I gathered a flashlight, some water, and the photograph of Mia. I felt her smile, both reassuring and haunting. I buried my unease deep down and made my way out of the studio, my heart pounding as I driven towards the old house. The drive felt too long. I parked my car on the side of the road, the house looming ahead, its silhouette dark against the rising moon. I stepped out, and the chill of the evening swept over me, carrying with it the weight of secrets. Branches scratched at my arms as I walked toward the decaying structure, each step soundless on the gravel. Then I froze. Movement caught my eye from the corner of the property. A shadow, darting behind the old oak tree. Panic clawed at my throat. Was someone else here? I fought the urge to retreat, but pressed forward. The call, the time, the warnings, they all led me to this moment. I had to confront the truth, whatever it might bring. As I neared the house, a loud creak echoed, and I felt a rush of adrenaline. Someone was inside. I wasn't alone. I pushed the door open, and the darkness yawned before me. It was now or never. Nothing could prepare me for what I would find within those walls. The darkness was thick, wrapping around me like a heavy blanket. I flipped on my flashlight, its beam cutting through the gloom just enough to reveal the dilapidated interior. The walls were charred, and remnants of furniture lay scattered, echoes of a life that once thrived here. I stepped inside, cautious. Every sound felt amplified. The crunch of broken glass beneath my shoes, the distant rustling of leaves outside, and the soft whistle of the wind slipping through cracks. The air tasted stale, laced with the scent of something burnt and forgotten. "Hello?" My voice came out shaky, swallowed by the shadows. No response. I took another step and scanned the room, looking for any sign of the person who had called me. Had they been serious? Did they really know something important? As I moved deeper into the house, A photo caught my eye. It was slightly askew on the floor, covered in dust. I knelt down to pick it up. It was a family portrait, Mia, her parents, and a man I didn't recognize. He looked different, yet something about his eyes felt familiar. "Who are you?" I murmured to the picture, feeling a chill creep along my spine. No answers came, just the echoes of silence. Suddenly, my flashlight flickered, casting dancing shadows on the walls. The beam landed on the staircase leading to the second floor. A sound echoed from above, like a whisper carried by the wind. My heart pounded. I wasn't alone. Gripping the flashlight tighter, I decided to venture upstairs. Each step creaked ominously beneath me, and I paused at the top, listening. There it was again, a whisper. I followed it down the hallway, my stomach knotting tighter with each step. At the end of the corridor was a door slightly ajar, a sliver of darkness beckoning me closer. "Is anyone there?" I called out again, a little louder this time. "I'm here to help." Silence. The only sound was my breathing, heavy and uneven, and the slight rustle of something in the room beyond. I pushed the door open, the hinges groaning in protest. That's when I saw it. A figure hunched over in the corner, a shadow among shadows. My breath hitched as recognition washed over me. It was the person from the voicemail. They turned slowly, revealing their face, and in that moment, I realized the resemblance to Mia wasn't just a trick of the light. "Who are you?" I croaked, struggling to keep my voice steady. Fear mingled with urgency in my mind. What were they doing here? "We don't have much time," they said, their voice unsteady. "You need to listen carefully. The Miller's fire wasn't an accident. It's connected to us, to me." Just then, I heard a loud crash from downstairs. I whipped around, my heart racing again. Someone else had entered the house. "Go!" the figure urged. "Now!" Panic surged as I stumbled backward. I hadn't just walked into the heart of a mystery. Now I was in danger. I hesitated for a moment, the figure's intense gaze locking onto mine. "What do you mean it's connected to you?" I burst out as fear clawed at my gut. But before they could answer, another loud crash echoed from below. I didn't need to hear more. I turned and dashed toward the staircase, my heart thudding in my chest. I didn't know who or what was coming up behind me. The dark had crept in all around, swallowing any sense of safety. As I reached the top of the stairs, I glanced back. The figure had moved closer, urgency etched on their face. "You have to trust me. There's no time to explain. Just run." I nodded, though part of me wanted to pull them along with me. But there was no time. I tore down the hallway, my feet stumbling over the uneven floorboards. I could hear footsteps below, quick and heavy, echoing through the cavernous space. My mind raced with fear. Who was down there? Why were they in the house? And what had the figure meant by connected to you? Without thinking, I pushed through the door at the end of the hall. Just as I expected, it led to a small room, an old attic space cluttered with boxes and dust. I quickly scanned the area for a place to hide. The dim light from my flashlight flickered, illuminating ghostly shapes against the walls. I squeezed behind a stack of boxes, just in time to hear the creak of the stairs. The figure still stood in the hallway, visible only as a silhouette. "You need to go," they called out, their voice strained. "Get out of here while you can." My heart sank. I didn't want to leave them behind. But one look at the door revealed the shadows creeping closer. Someone was coming. It wasn't just a presence. It felt like a threat, a weight in the air. Then, my flashlight flickered again, almost going out. The beam illuminated a large trunk in the corner. I edged closer, an odd instinct pulling me toward it. Maybe it held something that could help explain what was happening, or even a way to cope with the danger. Suddenly, I heard voices, low and murmuring, slipping up the stairs. The figure turned, taking a step back into the shadows. "You need to find the truth," they whispered, this time so quiet I almost didn't catch it. My heart racing, I pulled at the trunk's latch. It gave way surprisingly easily, and I lifted the lid. Inside lay old, worn journals and a key. As I flipped through the pages, one word stood out, again and again: fire. Before I could process what I was reading, the figure pressed against the doorframe. "Go! Now! I'll hold them off!" "No!" I shouted, panic surging again. But they were already moving, slipping out of view as I grabbed the key and the journal in a single motion. The footsteps thundered closer, their shadows stretching across the doorway. I felt the air shift and knew I had only moments left. Then I saw it, a window at the far end of the room, slightly ajar. I dashed for it, adrenaline fueling my every move. I had to escape, but I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever I was running from was part of something much bigger, something connected to Mia and the fire. And with the figure's words ringing in my ears, I jumped. The ground below welcomed me, both a new beginning and a dark mystery yet to unfold. The chill of the night seeped into my bones as I hit the ground, the cool dampness awakening my senses. I struggled to catch my breath, glancing back at the house, its darkened windows looming like empty eyes watching my every move. I felt an unsettling urge to go back, but something deep within me pushed me to keep running. I needed answers. The trunk, the journals, the key, everything felt like pieces of a puzzle that I had yet to assemble. I stumbled away from the house, my legs propelling me into the cover of the trees, where shadows danced and the moonlight struggled to break through. I stopped to catch my breath, pressing my back against a rough tree trunk. My heart raced and sweat dripped from my forehead. I pulled the journal from my backpack, its pages crinkled and yellowed. As I flipped through it, my eyes widened at the scrawled words. They spoke of a fire, stories of rage, loss, and connection. That's when I saw it. A name. Mia. It echoed through my mind louder than any sound I had heard in the past few hours. I clasped the journal tightly, realizing this was more than just a random name. Mia was mentioned as a part of something terrible that had happened decades ago. But what did it have to do with me? I glanced around, feeling exposed under the stars. This wasn't just a history I was reading. It was a deep-rooted part of me. The connection tugged at my very core, and my pulse quickened when I heard rustling from behind. Had they followed me? I tucked the journal away and crouched behind a thick cluster of bushes. My heart thudded louder with every sound, a branch snapping, leaves crunching. I couldn't see who it was, but I had to know if I was still being hunted. A figure entered the clearing, their silhouette illuminated by the pale moonlight. My breath hitched in my throat. It was the same silhouette I had seen in the house. They moved cautiously, glancing over their shoulder as if expecting someone to emerge from the shadows. "Why did you jump?" they called out, voice barely above a whisper, yet filled with urgency. "They'll be looking for you." I stepped out slowly, my hands raised in a half-hearted gesture of peace. "You shouldn't be here. What are you doing?" "I came to warn you," they said, their eyes darting around. "The others, they're not finished. They know you got away, and they want you back." Fear surged through me. "What do they want with me?" "Your connection to the fire. It's essential. You have to trust me," they insisted, their tone desperate. "If you follow me, I can explain everything." Maybe they were the only chance I had left, but another thought clawed at the back of my mind. What if they were the danger? I hesitated, caught in a web of uncertainty. Just as I was about to speak, a low growl echoed through the trees. My stomach dropped. Something else was here, something I couldn't see. "Run!" the figure yelled, and before I could think, instinct kicked in. I sprinted, heart racing, in the direction they indicated, hoping it would lead to safety. Behind us, the growling grew louder, and the only thing I knew for certain was that whatever was after me might be more than just a ghost from the past. It was rising again, like a fire from the ashes, and I was right in its path. The trees closed in around me as I ran, branches clawing at my clothes and arms. My breath came in ragged gasps, but I couldn't stop. Not now. The growling grew closer, a low, menacing sound that felt primal. I glanced back and saw the shadow behind us, moving quickly, too quickly. A predator in the dark. "Keep going!" the figure shouted, their voice barely cutting through my panic. I could barely see their face, but I could sense their urgency. I stumbled over some roots and regained my footing, pushing deeper into the woods. I didn't know where we were heading, but the thrill of fear pushed me onward. My thoughts raced. Who were they, and why were they helping me? Did they know what was after me? "What is that thing?" I yelled, trying to keep pace with them. "It's something we thought was gone. We didn't know they'd come for you," they replied, dodging low branches. "You have to trust me. We're closer to safety, just a little further." Just as I started to process their words, the bushes to my right exploded, and a large figure lunged at us. My heart stopped. The creature, was it human? Whatever it was snarling, teeth bared, eyes cold and hungry. The figure beside me shouted something I couldn't make out, and before I could react, they shoved me aside. "Run!" They pushed me forward, and I barely lost my balance. I sprinted with every ounce of strength I had left, the sounds of the chase echoing behind me. The underbrush snapped and rustled, but I didn't look back. I needed to focus on the path ahead. Then I saw it. A small clearing up ahead, faintly illuminated by moonlight. With a surge of hope, I dashed toward it. Maybe I could lose the creature there. As I reached the clearing, I turned to look back. The figure was still behind me, but the creature had gained ground. "Over here!" they shouted, waving me toward a large rock formation. I darted toward it, crouching low behind one of the boulders, my heart pounding against my ribs. I felt the adrenaline coursing through my veins, a mix of terror and determination. The growling stopped just outside the clearing, and I could hear ragged breathing. I glanced up and saw the shape of the figure slip in next to me. They were clearly exhausted, but their eyes locked onto mine. "I thought I lost it," they said, panting. "But we're not safe yet." "What the hell is going on?" I demanded. "Why is this thing after me?" "Because of Mia," they replied, voice low, "and because of what she left behind. You carry part of that legacy, whether you know it or not." I felt a rush of confusion. "Legacy? What are you talking about?" Before they could answer, a loud crash echoed from the edge of the trees, followed by a deep growl. The creature was close, frustrated. "We've got to move," they said quickly, glancing back at the sound. "But first, we need to figure out what it wants. If we can do that, maybe we can survive this." I could barely think. As the creature pushed through the branches, a part of me wanted to run again, but another part was desperate for answers. "Tell me what you know," I whispered. Their expression hardened. "What I know might change everything." Then a shadow moved, and everything went dark. I blinked as the darkness enveloped us, and my senses kicked into overdrive. I could hear rustling, the slithering sound of branches scraping against each other. An eerie silence followed. The growling faded. It felt as if I had been thrown into a void, but I wasn't alone. The figure beside me remained tense, their presence a reminder that danger was too close. "Are you okay?" I whispered, my voice barely breaking the silence. "I'm fine. Just stay close," they replied, their voice low and strained. They shifted slightly, blocking the narrow gap between the boulder and the ground. I could see their eyes glimmering in the dim light filtering through the canopy. What felt like an eternity passed before I noticed shadows moving at the edge of the clearing. Unease crawled up my spine. I had a sickening feeling that whatever was out there was searching for us. Then, a soft but guttural growl echoed through the clearing. Panic surged. I forced my body to stay still, but my mind was racing. Who was this person? Why did they mention Mia? And why on earth was that thing after me? "We need to—" The figure started, but a sudden movement caught our attention. In the low light, I saw something, just a flash, dart past the trees. My heart raced again. My instincts screamed for me to move, to hide, but I held my breath, waiting. "Stay quiet," they cautioned. "It might be looking for you specifically. We need to keep a low profile." Just then, a rustling sound came from behind us, and I turned my head, searching the darkness. But before I could comprehend what was happening, something lunged at us from the opposite side. It crashed against the boulder, shaking the ground beneath me, and I gasped, fear gripping my chest. The creature, massive and formidable, was even closer now. Its eyes glowed like lanterns, staring directly at me. I suppressed a shriek, falling back against the cold stone as I felt the figure beside me tense further. "Is it?" I began, voice trembling, but they interrupted. "It wants something. We need to give it what it wants, or we might not make it out of here." "What do you mean? What does it want?" I was bewildered, my fear morphing into frustration. As if in response, the creature let out another guttural growl and stepped closer, reaching out with a massive clawed hand. I shuddered. Just when I thought it would attack, it stopped, almost poised, as if waiting for something. That's when I saw it. The creature's eyes flickered with recognition. They weren't just cold. They were searching, almost questioning. "Your blood," the figure murmured, realization dawning. "It senses your lineage. We've got to find a way to communicate. It might think you're her." "Her?" I echoed, dread pooling in my stomach. "Mia. You're connected to her, and it's looking for something of hers. Something you have," they explained urgently. With that, the creature drew closer, its breath hot against the cool night air. There was no time left. I felt my pulse quicken, uncertainty swirling in my mind. If this thing was looking for Mia's legacy, and I was somehow tied to it, could I reach out to it? Or was I merely its next meal? Before I could gather my thoughts, a deep growl ripped through the clearing, and all hell broke loose. I could feel the fear pulsing through me like a drumbeat, loud and insistent. The creature hovered close, its breath warm and heavy, and I wasn't entirely sure what to do. Should I stand my ground, risk reaching out to it with words, or should I run? A life like mine had always been spent chasing after truths, and here was the biggest mystery yet, staring me down. "Wait," I whispered, urging myself to remember why I was here in the first place. Whatever this was, whatever connection it had to me and Mia, it felt like I had no other choice. Mia. The name slipped from my lips as though it had its own power. "What do you want?" The creature paused, its glowing eyes shifting as if processing my words. A rumbling growl echoed in response, not a sound of aggression, but something deeper, like a lingering sorrow. "Keep talking," the figure beside me urged, urgency punctuating their whisper. "It knows something." I swallowed hard, feeling the lump in my throat. The tension in the air hung thick. I want to help," I stammered, gripping the journal tightly, the feeling of Mia's photograph burning in my pocket. "I don't know what happened to you. I'm so sorry. Please, let me know how I can help." The creature leaned in closer. I could see its heightened awareness in the way its ears angled toward me, waiting, listening intently. Every muscle in my body was taut, poised to flee if something went wrong, yet the vulnerability of the moment pushed me onward. "Show me," I said softly, my heart pounding. "Show me what you want." A flicker of recognition played in its eyes, and as if responding to my plea, the creature turned sharply toward the trees, snuffling the air, then beckoned me with a single, deliberate movement of its large paw. Suddenly, it bounded back toward the shadows from which it had come. "Follow it!" the figure urged, fear and resolve flooding their voice. We darted after it, hardly conscious of the branches that scraped against us. Whispers flitted through my mind, the feeling of being tethered to something larger, deeper, tied through history, regrets, and perhaps fate. The creature moved with an unearthly grace, leading us through thick underbrush into the heart of the forest where the moonlight waned. But just as hope began to swell in my chest, the creature halted, its body rigid. It turned, facing something deeper inside the darkness. Involuntarily, I stepped back. Beneath the dense canopy, my anxious pulse quickened. The figure beside me glanced nervously around. "What is it?" I whispered. "I don't know, but I have a bad feeling," they said, their gaze darting around us. Suddenly, the growl returned, raw and hungry, echoing from the shadows ahead. I felt an icy grip settle around my heart. There was something else here, something perhaps watching us. We had followed the creature, but it seemed we weren't alone. At that moment, I felt a nudge at my side, a warm breath against my arm. The creature turned back toward me, an almost pleading look in its eyes, as if it knew we needed to unite against this impending danger. "Trust me," I whispered, the words barely escaping. "We'll face this together." But before I had the chance to take a step forward, a shadow unfurled from the depths of the forest at an alarming speed. I turned, my heart in my throat. It was larger, more feral. The air thickened with its rancid breath, and panic surged through me once more. We were out of time. Just as the creature lunged forward, I felt the weight of the moment crash upon me like thunder. Rogue instincts boiled over. I reached for the journal once more, desperate to press it into the grasp of this primal creature that seemed to manifest everything I had buried alongside Mia. "Stop!" I shouted, throwing the journal to the ground as I felt the collective pressure of finding the answers rise to the forefront. "This belongs to her." The growl stuttered, replaced with a long, deep sound. The creature paused in its track, its heavy breathing resounding off the trees. The journal lay between us like a lifeline. As if pulled by an invisible thread, my body moved slowly, inching toward the journal. "Please," I urged, looking from the creature to the figure and back to whatever darkness that pursued us. "Let this bridge the gap. You know what was lost." The massive creature stopped, swaying slightly as it assessed the scene. My heart raced. Would it recognize my offer? Would it accept the bridge born from memory? Was the fire a metaphor, consuming all recollections once and for all? The intensity of the moment wrapped around us all, holding its breath. I could feel the figure beside me tensing, the fear palpable, but there were no options left. The figure's hand gripped my arm, fingers trembling. "You're not playing with fire, Mark. You're playing with fate. Don't make a move without thinking." But I had already made my decision. I stepped closer, reaching down to the journal. In a toxic blend of dread and hope, I felt it unfolding around me, a destiny as tangled as the roots beneath my feet. The creature edged closer, and I braced myself for what might come next. Would we dissolve into the shadows, or could this be the fateful reunion? The moment to confront the past, the truth behind Mia, and the legacy she left behind? Time stretched between us, the yawning chasm of uncertainty threatening to swallow all. The growl transformed, morphing back to the sorrow I sensed earlier. The connection pulsed stronger, feeding off the cache of memories churning in the dark recesses of my mind. What happened next, amid the clashing forces of the past and an uncertain future, unfurled unexpectedly, blending reality with threads of fear and forgotten tales. We stood at a precipice, and on the other side lay only darkness. Would I leap into it, as a sacrifice to the unknown? Or would this be a moment of confrontation, igniting the truth of everything that had come before? It was a choice, as unexpected as a slow burn, but I felt its weight firmly upon me as the shadows converged. Whatever awaited beyond was yet to unfold, our fates tethered together in an unseen dance of history.